Entrepreneur Series. I'm your host, Corey Fonville Foster, and I am so excited that you are listening or watching in today. Today, we have an amazing guest, Miss Tiara Riley of Tiara Nicole Riley, LLC. Hello, Tiara.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. I was so excited. I was looking at your bio and I was like, okay, she's accomplished. Author of several books, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Several
I
books.
am I am at 4 right now.
Yes. And I was
Yes.
like, okay, she's a speaker, she's a business coach. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a great talk. So I'm super excited that you had time to come on and hang out with me and my audience. I want to, of course, allow you to introduce yourself. Tell us all about who is Tiara Riley.
Yes. So that's always such a loaded question, right? Like, who are you? But yeah, so I'm a motivational speaker. I am a 4-time published author. I am a business coach. Um I am an angel mom, and by the time this episode airs, I will be a few weeks shy of being a mother to a beautiful baby girl. Hopefully, she's not here by the time the episode drops, but we're getting very close to being at the finish line. So I'm about to be a mompreneur. I am a second generation entrepreneur. My mom has had her own business for 25, most of my life. Let's just call it that, right? Um, but yeah, so I'm also a big sister. I'm an auntie of 8 little ones. Yeah, and the oldest is 9. So my family is very, very busy. We'll call it that. But yeah, I'm just a dope human who's trying to do dope things in this world.
I love that. We should have that intro. She's a dope human who's doing dope things in the
Yes,
world. I love it. And I love the generational I was about to say generational wealth, but yeah, the generations of being entrepreneurs. That's so cool.
absolutely.
I wish I guess my mom's an entrepreneur now, but I wish she would have gone through these experiences so that she would be able
Yeah,
to give me more insight and
yeah,
come to like lessons learned, best practices. But I'll be able to pass that on.
yeah.
And I don't know if we get to see the picture of the baby once the baby's born. Hopefully after the episode.
It'll
That's when
be
it
a
is.
while. Because the internet is ruthless, man. Listen.
Yes.
Um,
People
the
be filters. They put filters on babies. My mom was watching. She was going through like Instagram, and she's like, "Oh, this baby's cute," and I was like, "Hold on a second, that's a filter." We found a picture of the baby with no filter, and I was like, "Oh, that's why they use the filter." So I get it. You got to protect your little ones because you don't want to have to pop somebody in the mouth for saying something crazy. So
and
this is
listen,
good.
the way I'm ready to fight about my baby sister, I already know when it comes time for this little girl, I'm gonna be ready. Listen, I listen. Okay, I'm not a killer, but don't tempt me. You know what I mean? Like that. That's just
We
really
might
how I
edit that
am.
out the podcast. She said, "I'm not a killer, but don't tip me." So
Just
somebody
don't
come
tempt
up
me. You know.
missing. We didn't see anything. We didn't hear anything. Scrub this from the record.
You know, but like it's just
You
yeah,
have to be a mama, like you have to be a mama bear. That's our job as parents. And you already have that in you. We already see like you're not going to be a mom to play with. And that
hello.
probably means you're not an entrepreneur to play with. You're serious about your business. So look, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah,
Tiara Nicole Riley, LLC. So you said you're an author, you're a business coach. What all do you do as far as your business is concerned on a daily basis?
everything, child. Everything. So yeah, I'm still in the solopreneur phase. I'm slowly growing. Thankfully I have a phenomenal social media management team. So that's one thing that I don't have to do. Bless the Lord, because one of the things that you learn when you become an entrepreneur is like social media is not fun when it's a part of your business. So I get to have fun on all my personal profiles. And then, I still get really great content on the business side. But yeah, so other than that, I mean, I pretty much wear all the hats, do all the things. But really, what's important to me is making sure that I'm doing what God has told me to do and not just what I want to do.
Okay.
Because what I've realized is we always know, like, if it's his will for your life, he'll make provisions. But a lot of times we take that and hear money, when provisions also include energy, time, opportunities, all of the things. So just being really receptive to, um, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Because if it is what I'm supposed to be doing, I'll have the energy, I'll have the time, I'll have the opportunity to do it. And I don't have to, yes, I have to work hard, but I don't have to beat my head up against the wall just for the door to open.
That's amazing. A lot of people don't think of things that way. They're always trying to push for what they want and opportunities they want to have. But it is like that in entrepreneurship where things that are for you, that are meant for you, are for you. And you just have to be ready to get them when they come.
Absolutely.
So I think that's great. And I love that you are outsourcing. Like I do marketing as well. So like when you want to hang out with me, let me know. But I think it's really a good key for any entrepreneur to think about. If your zone of genius is not marketing, and you know that's going to be a big part, like we're in 2021, it's going to be a big part of your business, whether you have a brick and mortar or you're doing things virtually. Social media is key. If it's not your ministry, go ahead and outsource to someone who does enjoy making social media. But oddly enough, even though I do it for other people, I don't like doing it for myself. And it's not fun when it's you that you're focusing on.
Yeah.
But I think that that's a good takeaway that you talked about. So I do want to ask, because we know as entrepreneurs, we want everybody to buy our products. We want everybody to come listen to our speeches and engage with us in some way. But everyone has a target audience. Who is your typical target audience for your brand?
I would say people like me, because people buy from people they can relate to, right? So that means millennial African American women who are starting or growing their business, wanting to chase their dreams fiercely. I do tend to draw a lot of people who are either wanting to write a book or thinking of writing a book, because people go at, like, if they look and see themselves in you, it's easier for them to connect, right? Now, does that mean that's exclusively who I work with? Absolutely not. But I find myself organically connecting with those people. And I think it really boils down to the reality of people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And so that really makes a difference for sure. But I've had clients from all kinds of industries. I've had authors, of course, but I've had graphic designers. I've had jewelry owners, a jewelry brand owner. So it really just depends. And from a business coaching standpoint, what I teach is so fundamental that the industry isn't, it doesn't have to be a specific industry, because I'm teaching you the foundations. Because what I've learned is we have a lot of really creative people who struggle in business because they don't have that foundation. So you can be creative. I can't tell you what to do creatively, right? But what I can tell you is what systems and structures to put in place so that your creative business, when it does pop off, you can actually sustain it.
I think that's so key. And people don't realize that there are lots of business coaches out there, but you need to find one that specializes in the area of growth that you need. And
Yeah.
people don't understand that because they're like, well, I have a business coach, but like I'm a business coach, but I only do marketing, brand, and a little fundamentals, just enough to get you ready to market.
Yeah.
You do fundamentals, and then there's coaches, and of course, I'm sure you do coaching around authorship. But then there's other people who are scale up. So once you've already got all the groundwork done, you're trying to hit six figures, they're scaling you up, and you need more
Exactly.
money to work with them because you have to pay for some systems and things like that. So I think it's important to realize that you really have to see where you are in your journey and find a business coach that really, like you said, kind of connects with you and
Yeah.
also does the type of thing you need. So many people get business coaches and get upset. They're like, oh, I didn't get what I wanted, or they didn't help me solve this problem. Were they ever going to? Because you probably got a business coach that specializes in something else other than what you needed. So you have to do I can't talk today, your due diligence, and research and ask the questions, because every business coach may have great reviews, right? They're saying I can get you here, I can do these things, and they can. But if it's not where you're trying to go,
It
You don't
does.
need to buy a ticket.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes to. So I
100%.
love that you said you do fundamentals, and that's needed because a lot of people, even myself, skip that step. I
Yeah.
started a business. I threw out a message on Facebook and said, I'm gonna do marketing now. I've changed my business. This is what I'm
Yeah.
gonna do, and I got clients, thankfully, God willing.
Yeah.
But there was no business plan. There was no structure. I
Yep.
was like, oh my. And then after the fact, about 9 months in, I said, okay, we need to back up, and I got a coach
Yeah.
that dealt with fundamentals, and then I had that
Absolutely.
success. So I think that anyone who's thinking about starting a business, anyone who is just getting started, anybody who needs to go back and take care of the fundamentals, definitely needs to check in with you
Oh,
and say, okay, what systems, like you said, can I put in place? Because you'd be surprised how much time will be alleviated from you and given back
oh.
to you if you have those structures. Like, how many of us have gone and had to ask somebody in an email what time works for you for this meeting, and then they give you some time, you say, okay, that doesn't work for me, what time and what
When
time
there's
zone?
one system you can put in place
Exactly, and boom.
and not even have to go back and forth.
Exactly. Do you know it took me forever to learn that? And I think so many people are doing that because I know even with this podcast, I'll say, okay, I would love to have you. And they say, oh, well, can you do this? And I'm like, hold on, let me send you my calendar schedule. Click.
Hello.
And that's good.
Yeah, I don't go back and forth over schedules. Here's when I'm available. You pick what works for you, dear.
Exactly. And now you have more time to do the things you really want to do. So I think that it's amazing to be a fundamental business coach. You also get to see people's journey, which is really fun, seeing them grow from that thought, from what they thought they could do to like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I can't believe it.
that's the
So
best
even
part.
though I see you've had some successes now, you're like, I got all these things in place. Every I know everything, of course, couldn't have been smooth sailing, right?
Oh
Couldn't
God,
have
no.
been. So, what were some of the hurdles that you encountered? And then, if you want to expand, because I know you deal with certain types of talks and things, and certain types of clients, even what your clients' hurdles have been, because we want to share. Because I think a lot of people don't think they can get to where they want to get to because they're like, well, that person's special. It's like, well, no, that person was just like you. So please do share, like I said, your hurdles and maybe some of the hurdles of your clients so that we can all learn and grow.
Yeah, there's hurdles all the time, right? And I think that's one of the benefits of being a second generation entrepreneur is I understood that going into it. So we're now in a generation that glamorizes, being a CEO and, six-figure months and, all these things. And what we don't talk about is this is difficult. Like it's hard, you know. There are highs and there are lows, and there are some days where you're gonna have both in one day, And so when we don't talk about that, you feel like when you're going through a low or you have a few lows back to back, you feel like, oh, well, maybe this isn't for me. When the reality is, we all go through it, right? We all have those highs and lows. So, for me, I kind of just I know it's par for the course. So you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, okay, we just go through it. But I think one of the biggest challenges that I have faced, as well as some of my clients, have been the imposter syndrome and feeling like, who am I to be somebody's motivational speaker? Who am I to publish a book? Especially when I was publishing my first book, baby, I didn't even tell anyone because
Oh,
I I was so afraid of stepping in, like I was already afraid that I didn't want anybody else's fear, because even just one more drop of fear and I would have been like, forget it, I'm over it. Literally, so the only people that knew was my business coach at the time, my best friend at the time, and my publisher.
wow. You
No
kept it
one
under
else
wraps.
knew. Literally, no one else knew until it was time for pre-orders. They was like, "Wait, you wrote a book?" I'm like, "Yeah, you go ahead, go ahead, order that book. Thanks."
That's good
um,
though. That's good because sometimes if you tell people, they're not always for you. So you probably made a great choice by not telling everybody.
yeah, and not even just that, but like the people who are for you, who are trying to protect you, right? Like, oh, are you sure you should be publishing a book? Are you sure you should be, because my first book is like a memoir. Like it's a lot in that book. um, and it got a lot of kickback. So had I communicated in advance, the people who were trying to protect me or who I know would have tried to protect me could have talked me out of it very easily without even doing it from a malicious stance. But now that I have stepped into that light, one, I've published a book every year. Okay. Two, my grandmother is now a published author.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm in the process of building, which by the time this airs will be finalized, but I am now building a publishing company that I'm running with my family. None of that would be the case if I had caved to the fear.
Wow.
100%.
So that's a whole sermon right there. Not
Yeah.
caving into the fear, because sometimes we have to step outside of that mindset, and it's so hard because what about failure? What
Yeah.
about not succeeding? What about people talking about you? What if people don't agree? All those just questions run through your mind, and you push
Yeah.
past that and now have success. So I think that's such a great takeaway because
Yeah.
I don't know an entrepreneur who wasn't once afraid or who wasn't
Yeah.
confused or weary or just nervous, anxious about this product that they put their blood, sweat, and tears in to wonder how's it going to be received. So I think it's great that
Yeah.
you talked about that process because it's a doozy.
Yeah. And the thing about fear, it's we give fear too much power. And that's just really what it boils down to. Fear is an emotion and it is communicating something. Just like hunger, just like sadness, just like anger, they're communicating something, right? But what we do with fear is we're like, oh my God, I'm afraid. This is a roadblock. No, it's a stop sign. You need to pause. You need to look around, check your surroundings, make sure everything is everything. But that doesn't mean the road is completely shut off just because you're feeling fear. And from a spiritual stance, God has not given us a spirit of fear. So that means fear is not coming from God. So my theory is if I'm feeling fear, that's the very thing I'm supposed to be doing because the devil can't stop you. He can only get you to stop you. And fear is his number one tactic because it works because we've given it that power. So when I feel fear, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Let's go.
Okay.
Yes.
I have to do that now. Like, okay, I'm scared. Okay, let's move on. I love
Yeah.
that's a great
And
way to think. I would have never thought of it that way because I'm always like, you can do it, like just kind of talking myself into it. But I
yeah.
love that. Like that's the moment to push even harder. I love it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, it's okay to be afraid. What's not okay is for that fear to stop you. And that's where we have the difference because, and I think it was in Lion King where he was like, Simba was talking to Mufasa and he's like, you're so brave. You're never afraid. And he's like, it's not that I'm not afraid. And obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, it's not that I'm not afraid. It's that I don't like, you just can't let it stop the show.
Okay.
And that's just what it is. And, life lessons by Disney, but
Hakuna Matata. I
but
like
it, but it's real. Like bravery is not the absence of fear. Bravery is feeling the fear and still pushing through.
it. Yeah. I, you're speaking my language. I love that. So you guys are out there and you're scared, you're nervous, you're just shaking in your boots, push past that. Realize that this is the moment for you. This is the place you're supposed to be and get through and tap into your success because that's where you're going. The Akuna Matata.
Ella.
Lessons from the Lion King. I love it. So I want to ask you, because you've been giving us a lot of tips, a lot of good information. If
What?
you were talking to a brand new entrepreneur, straight out, maybe they just left their corporate job, maybe they just had this great idea, they're going to jump for it. What would be one tip or one piece of advice you would have for them?
Hire a coach. My God. Um, step one. And I say this in practice, right? Like when I decided to be serious about my business, I hired a coach and we met every week. And the benefit to a coach is you don't know what you don't know. Two, yes, you can Google it. Yes, you can YouTube it, all of the things, but that's like having a roadmap. having a coach is like having a GPS. So if you get off turn, if you lose track, or if you skip a step, you have someone who is able to recap, who can get you back on track. YouTube ain't gonna tell you you done missed a step. They don't know, you know. But if you have a coach, it's the best investment I have ever made. And I feel like everyone needs a coach because there's just so much you could learn a lot quicker that it makes it worth the investment.
I agree. I think that you're always hesitant, right? Because coaches aren't cheap. We know that they're definitely an investment. And so when you talk to a coach, you may want one, but then that fear again creeps up, or that feeling of I don't want to spend that much money. I always tell people it's not spending money, it's definitely investing money. And if you, like I said, do your due diligence. Wow, that is a tongue
And
twister
get the
today.
right coach.
And get the right coach, that coach will
Exactly.
help you pay for that. Like you won't have to worry about it, because the time you're going to take to get through that learning curve and to wear all the hats and learn all the skills, trial and error, you've wasted money. You've wasted time. You've wasted money. So before you jump out of your 9 to 5, I would say save up for a coach, at least for 6 months, maybe even find that coach. And I actually would say, yes, find the coach before you jump out, if at all possible. And then have a strategy, have an exit strategy, have a strategy to start your business, have a launch, because that will definitely help you so that you don't spend that first, like me, 9 months trying to figure things out, trying to make things work, because you're
Right.
going to see some progress if you're grinding, right? You're trying, you're pushing,
Yes.
you're going to see some success, some amounts of like, okay, we're doing this. But when you get that coach, instead of it going like little by little, it's going to go, and then you're like, why didn't I do this already? And
Yeah.
and if you have a coach right now and you've made that investment but you are not seeing results, you need to have a conversation.
It may not be the right coach, or also you may have outgrown that coach.
Yes, and are
Because
you listening to that coach?
what one, are you applying the lessons, right?
Yes.
But there is a thing as outgrowing a coach. Like my first coach, we had to have that conversation. I was like, listen, I think I'm ready to fly, you know? And that's the thing, like the right coach doesn't want you just riding their roster for forever. The right coach is motivated by your success, right?
Exactly.
Like the best feeling to me as a coach is to see so many of my clients off doing well. Like my client who was a graphic designer, she's now my primary graphic designer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what a win, right? And I gladly pay her for her services. Like, there have been times where I'm like, oh no, baby, you need to charge me more. You know what I mean? Like, so it's I want to see you win because you are creative and you have that talent, right? But then again, imposter syndrome. So, we had a project recently and I was like, tell me your price. And she told me and I was like, you need to be charging more. And then we're working on expanding the project and things like that, and doing other things together. And she's like, here are my price. Here's what I think my prices should be. I'm open to feedback. And I'm always like, for double it. Like, you know what I mean? Like you deserve
Yes.
that money because your talent is there. And like the best win in the world for me is to see my clients doing well. And I don't want my clients to be on my roster for forever because then I feel like, well, what am I doing wrong? Like I should be able to
Exactly.
let you fly, honestly.
That's how it should be. And I always tell clients, I'm like, okay, this is what I focus on. Once you get here, then I will pass you along. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, if your coach is trying to keep you, you've been together for 2 years, you haven't seen progress, it's time to go. It's time to rethink and find somebody else who can get you where you're trying to go. And you may have to possibly make an investment if it seems too good to be true. Like you have a coach saying, hey, I'll do it for free, or I'll do it for, $20 a month. It's like you're not going to grow at the speed you want to. You need to find somebody who has quality material, quality systems, track record, and then somebody who's doing what you need, and get with them. And like I said, it'll pan out. It'll take care of itself. You'll make that money back. And if you're not, again, it's time to have a have those conversations. I
Okay.
think I was always scared, and I'm like, no, we're gonna have this conversation. Because I have to see return on my investment just like everyone else does. And a good coach wants you to do well because a testimony is worth so much. So if you're just sitting there stagnant, there has to be a reason. There needs to be some type of conversation had about that because you can't vouch for their systems and you apparently aren't doing well from them. So there has to be something done there. But before we go, because we've given out a lot of nuggets today. If
Okay.
you haven't learned something today, you need to rewind and listen again. But I'm not gonna take up too much of Tiara's time. I do want to ask her what products. Look, she's given us a little bit of information, but what products and services do you have, and how can people connect with you if they wish to?
Yeah. So I am on every social media platform at Tiara Nicole Riley. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So definitely follow me at Tiara Nicole Riley on your favorite platform. Additionally, on my website, tiaranicoleriley.com, I have some digital trainings around dealing with the grief of miscarriages or grief in general, time management, business development. I have a lot of digital trainings there, so definitely check those out. tiaranicoleriley.com/shop. And if you are interested in publishing your book but don't really know where to start, holla at me, slide in my DMs, and I got something for you. But yeah, like I said, we're working on a publishing company where we're helping authors to self-publish. It is a very confusing journey and a very detailed process, and that is not an area you want to guess in. So, if you would like to work with me to help publish your first or next book, definitely holla at me at Tiara Nicole Riley. Or if you need a business coach, I'm still here.
Awesome. So, guys, her information will probably be on the screen at some point. It'll be in the description if you are checking this out on YouTube. And if you're listening, go to the episode information, and her information will be there as well. Her tagline is Tiara Nicole Riley on all major platforms. So, thank you so much for coming on, giving us those gems, that wisdom, that information. This has definitely been a great talk. I even learned some things today and got some
Hey,
information. So look, we're always growing and sharing and learning. So thank
absolutely.
you for that. And hopefully we can do some more. Like I have my brains turning. I want to do some more things in the future. I can see we have some philosophies alike. We can work together. But
Love
guys, but guys, again, thank you, Tiara. And remember, I rock, you rock, we all rock. And I will see you guys next episode.
Thank you.